So we move on then to section B, which is the writing section, and what you're looking at here is the differences between the way it used to be, which had two writing sections on each paper. Now you've just got both on one paper, and moreover you've got one what's called a shorter writing task, which should take 25 minutes, and one that you've got called a longer writing task, which should take 35. Now looking at the timings there, obviously everyone will write different amounts, so there's no amount that you're supposed to, but some people ask for what they should aim for. So I would have thought about perhaps a side and a half to 2 sides on that one, no more. In fact, I think someone said the example said a page could one side could do really well in that, but I'd go for a page and a half. And here you'd be looking at automatically around 1 3/4 as the example recommendation, but I'd go for 2 1/2. Obviously it's quality, not quantity, in any given writing exercise that's going to get you the marks. Now they've also changed the format that you don't actually have a choice of questions, so whatever comes up you have to answer. So there's only question 5 and question 6, so in this case we'll be looking at question 5 and then what we get marks for. It's worth noting that at any point in this, the amount of marks that you get for spelling, punctuation and grammar is going to be 1/3. So 1/3 of the writing that you're going to do will bring that amount to you. So we'll look across at the actual writing assessment objectives that we had up at the top. Now write a letter to a friend explaining why you would like him or her to join you on a visit to a place that you think is very special. So here we're writing to explain, but they're not really sticking to the triplets like they used to. Obviously the triplets have been kind of left away, but the idea is just trying to get a clearer form of communication across as possible. So it's important for us to actually look at what we're being tested on. So here we're looking at AO3 1 and 2 from English, and AO3 1 and 2 from English language. So here if we look at AO3 1 and AO3 2, that's 1 2 here, and so it's communicate clearly and effectively imaginatively, and adapt forms and select appropriate vocabulary. So you want to be clear and concise in everything you put across. There has to be a lot of imagination in there, so you don't want to be boring. You want to use the right words that are fitting to your actual task, and you want to be able to engage the reader. You want to be able to, for 2, which again is being asked for in this question, you want to be able to organize information, ideas, structured and sequenced sentences, so it has to actually be well put on the paper, into paragraphs, and your whole text has to make sense. So the beginning has to feel like the beginning and the end has to feel like the end. It can't be vice versa, and it can't have the same tone throughout, obviously, if you want the highest marks. You need to use different linguistic and structural features, so you might want to use different sentence ranges, you might want to use different speech in there, and you want to make sure that the whole thing overall is cohesive and coherent, so it goes together and makes perfect sense. That's the mark scheme that you're going to go for these. Now you notice that here it says it's out of 16, whereas here the marking, the top band, it gets a maximum of 10. And that's because 6 marks go to, if I scroll down, 6 marks go to your ability to use spelling, punctuation and grammar properly. So if you use complex grammatical structures, so compound sentences, etc., with success. So if you use it and it is working well, you can't just use it and not make sense and expect to get the marks. Your writing is clearly organized and your sentences are demarked accurately, so obviously your full stops, etc., are in the right places. Employs a variety of sentence forms, so there's different lengths, etc., to good effect, including short sentences. So obviously straight away, if you're looking for high marks, you know you're going to have some short or very short sentences in there. Shows accuracy in spelling of words from an ambitious vocabulary. So basically, key things for vocabulary is to try and remember syllables. If a word has more than 3 syllables, 4 syllables, then you're really looking at something, decent, ambitious vocabulary. If it's got 1 or 2, it's probably not so much. And obviously there are different there's loads of breakaway rules from that, like apt. That's a great word to use at certain times, if it's apt, excuse the pun. And obviously you use standard English appropriately. You know what you're talking about. Again, looking at the other side of it, what gets you very low marks: uses standard English, shows accuracy in spelling of words in common use, so you know how to spell use and show and word, simple words like that. Writes simple and some complex sentences. A simple sentence is basically, in its simplest form, is like one clause. So I am John. And then a complex one would be I am John and I'm going to the shop. So that would be just a really simple breakdown of a clause there. So you want to make compound sentences which have a lot more to them than that. So it'd be I am John, I'm going to the shop to buy a certain thing for my mother whose birthday it is, that would just be a compound sentence. But again, the words that I've used there are actually very low range words. I was just trying to give a quick example. So if we look back up at the rest of the points where we'll get marked, obviously organizing your ideas, etc., would be, you show clarity throughout, you engage the reader, you sustain the purpose and intention of the letter. So obviously you have to have the letter, and again you want to show these are ways that you're affecting the reader. You've written a formal letter, and the tone is appropriately serious, but shows segments of a personal relationship. You employ emphasis, assertion, reason, emotive language. So you do all these different kind of things, or any one of them, to actually kind of show that this is actually a friend. So you might talk about memories. Hey, remember when we went to it'll be like that. You want to use reason. So do you have anything better to do? Emotive language. You must come. You're my best friend, etc. Use linguistic devices such as rhetorical questions and hyperbole. We'll have the best time ever, etc., etc., etc. Shows control of extensive but appropriately used discursive markers. So again, you're just planning and going through it in the best of way possible. Writes a whole text in continuous prose, so it's not bitty. Employs paragraphs effectively to help the meaning be understood. For example, a one sentence paragraph. Use a variety of structural features such as different paragraph lengths, dialogue, bullet points as appropriate. So obviously you're not going to start your list of bullet points. You might have gone through halfway and then said, imagine we can do this, and I've already planned an itinerary, and just put 3 or 4 things on Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, etc. Presents complex ideas in a coherent way. So again, you show something that's interesting. So it's not going to be in a visit a special place. It's not going to be the first thing you think of. It's probably going to be something that you've had to plan and actually develop the idea of slightly. So we move on then to the second the second writing task. So some people think it's wrong that primitive peoples and their communities are disrupted by tourists and TV crews, and they should be left in peace. Write an article for a travel magazine which argues, so here we're back in that triplet, even though we're not saying it officially, argues for or against this idea. It is actually worth noting here that all these videos are actually from now on are going to be put up in HD, hopefully. So if the writing is a little small, if you just go to the bottom corner of your YouTube box and pump it up to 720, then it should be just as crystal clear as could be, and obviously make the screen big. Sorry for that interjection. Write an article for a travel magazine which argues for or against this. So again, now you've got 24 marks available for the whole thing, and 16 are coming from your ideas. So one of the things that you actually do, write in a way which shows clarity of thought, so you know what you're talking about, and argues in a convincing and compelling way, so it's actually putting across the points well. Engage the reader with detailed, succinct argument and a range of variety of persuasive ideas and abstract concepts. So basically you can actually put something clear ahead and something abstract, something that's not right there in front of you. You're encouraging the reader to actually think about something, and obviously in vivid detail. Make some, so for this example, it could make a moral appeal, etc., could sustain the purpose, etc., and could ask people to consider the implications. So whichever way, that would be something abstract. It hasn't happened yet, the implications, but you might be asking them to think of the future and what kind of thing might happen, etc. Write a formal article, the tone of which is appropriately serious but also manipulative and subtle. So subtlety again is a key thing if you want the top marks. You have to be as good as, or nearly as good as the best you can. You know, professional writers, obviously you're not expected to be them, otherwise you'd be getting paid what they get paid, but you've got to start showing that you're trying to mimic other people's kind of writing work. Best way to revise for this, if you go to comment pages in the broadsheets and just read through them, start picking out and looking at the way they kind of control sentences and the kind of drop subtle hints in, etc., and maybe some of the satire or sarcasm that they use throughout might be useful. And obviously the language has got to be sophisticated. You've got to use linguistic devices, again, such as the ones you used earlier, and you have to show control of appropriate discursive markers, obviously breaking up your work as you actually go through. So not just firstly, secondly, thirdly, etc. You'd want to obviously build a little more differentiation there. And again, all of these are pretty much the same as what was mentioned earlier in the previous point. As for the shorter writing task, again, the skill there is completely overlapping. And again, with the punctuation, when we come down to that, again, it's going to be the same, but you're going to get more marks because you're expected to write over a longer period of time. So that's just a quick breakdown. Obviously we'll be given examples. In fact, there are actually examples on the old AQA videos. I'll hopefully put a couple of links, which I think I know how to do now, to some of the old videos that we used to do, and obviously the content of what you're actually writing there is going to be the same. So if it was an A star, then it's most likely still going to be an A star now with the old AQA AQA, simply because the criterion here is not very much different at all from what it used to be. The only difference really is being brought into one paper, and I guess AQA were probably thinking, if it's not broke, don't fix it.